What is up, y'all? It is your girl, ShayChannel. As you can see, I am in my comfortable zone. I am literally sitting in my bed. I wanted to come back on to do a part 2 to the making of my single, Do You Hear Me? As you know, my son woke up in the middle of me filming last night, and I already knew that once that happened, I wasn't going to be able to film much further or longer. So here we are. I believe I had ended off with saying that the song is just different, and it is. Now, by no means, as I was saying last night, did I sit down and say to myself, okay, Chanel, approach this song like a rapper would because it's on a trap beat, or okay, Chanel, be intentionally different. My process is always to just let whatever happens happen naturally. Whatever I hear, however I hear it, just do that, right? I don't go out of my way to be different or to go left. All I'm doing is just hearing what I'm hearing, from the lyrics to the melodies to the arrangement, and I just do just that. The beauty of Do You Hear Me is I had the opportunity to live with it for a very long time. Remember, I recorded 80% of the song December of last year. When we realized this thing needs to be extended because if we want this to get some radio spins, it needs to be at least 3 minutes. So I went back in April of this year and I was able to add a minute to it, which put us a little over 3 minutes. Then I was in between the different studio sessions that I had with recording this song. I was able to live with the song. And so as I was listening to it, I have my own kind of scale of what I base it off of. I think I've mentioned this before in my content. My son is 1. So if my son is constantly singing the song when I'm playing it, singing along with the song, if his face lights up when he hears the song, if he starts dancing to the song, then I know I'm on to something. And to my fellow artists out there, fellow emerging artists, new artists, aspiring artists, if you have children, play your music. If it's children friendly, play your music in front of your children because they will help you to determine that it factor, that catchy factor. Because as we know, with most children's television shows, YouTube videos, most of the content that is designed for them is built around music. It helps them to learn. They're able to learn their ABCs, their 1, 2, 3s. They're able to learn certain things off of songs, nursery rhymes, right? And so if they start to get into your music, then you know you're on to something because they already internally know what is naturally catchy and what in essence could be a hit for you. And so my son was the first test, and he's heard that song a gazillion times. And when he hears it today, he still stops what he's doing and sings along with it. Also, I said, Chanel, if you keep wanting to play the song over and over again, because I would even force myself to listen to it not as the artist, but as the consumer. And if I found that I wanted to keep playing it, I was like, okay, now I could still be a bit biased because this is my art, this is my song, but I still want to keep hearing it. Also, when I let my husband hear it, my husband represents someone who loves music, but is not musically inclined. And that is actually, in my opinion, who you want to target. You want to target the people who are music lovers and who may not be musically inclined, because those are the ones that are going to download and stream your music. Those are the ones that are going to be purchasing tickets to see you sing these songs live. You know what I'm saying? And so, yes, don't get me wrong. I have tons of musical friends and I love for them to hear what I'm doing as well and to like it. But I am more invested in people who love music but are not necessarily musically inclined to actually love my music, because I know they're the demographic of people who will support what you're doing, right? And so, also unbeknownst to me, one of my managers was letting his industry friends and comrades hear the song, as well as non-industry friends and comrades. So for me, you always want to have both, right? If you can. I'm naturally someone who doesn't look for the validation. I'm like, if I love it, I love it, right? If I like it, I love it. If I love it, I love it. But I understand when you're doing this, or you're trying to do this at a professional level, you do need some level of feedback. So I, once my manager brought it to my attention that was what he was doing, I was like, okay, cool. And I would say, if I understood correctly, the feedback that I was given, 75% felt like we were on to a hit, we were on to something strong, loved it. There was that 25% that felt maybe they didn't get with it, maybe they didn't like it, or maybe they didn't understand it in the inspirational space, right? Because I am an inspirational artist. And Do You Hear Me does not go along with the typical algorithm, if you will, of inspirational music. It doesn't have the genetic makeup that most traditional inspirational music has, or even contemporary inspirational music has. My stuff is probably fits better with R&B and hip hop and all that kind of stuff. So I got that there was that 25% that was on the fence, or didn't like it, or felt as if I don't get it, right? I don't know about this for this kind of space or genre of music. So, and I was, some of your faves, some of my faves, one of my faves had heard my song and loved it, right? I'm not going to mention no names because it's not just my story to tell. But that made my day. Like, oh my gosh, somebody who's one of my musical heroes loves my song. Like, what? But once again, that's great from a business perspective when people in the industry rock with it, because they understand how this goes. They understand hits. They've had their own measure of success, and so they get it. But as I said before, I really, really love when people outside of the industry rock with it and love it, because they're the ones that are going to rock with you till the wheels fall off. And I believe that that is part of finding your audience. And so, we were able to get some really great feedback on Do You Hear Me? And, the real work starts once you put your song out. So for, once again, the new artists, the fellow new artists like me, the emerging artists, the aspiring artists, just know when you're writing, arranging, and recording your music, that's the fun part. That's the easy part. That's the therapeutic part. The real work comes in when you have to work your record, when you have to turn people into believers of your music and your artistry. Because when you're a new artist, nobody is giving you opportunities and handouts out here, even if you do have relationships. One of my managers is very well connected in this industry. That still doesn't mean that I'm going to get a pass, or that I'm going to be able to skip a couple of steps and run past go because of my manager's connections. People have to vibe with what you're doing, and a lot of people are not going to always stick their neck out on the line either. So as a new artist, we're at the phase in my artistry where we've really been working hard, my team and I, to book me shows, to get me out there to the people, right? To be able to sing live. And that hasn't been the easiest thing, because nobody knows anything about me or who I am. I don't have the leverage just yet, because I'm still building my audience. I'm still finding my audience, right? And so that's your leverage. If you got like 20,000 people following you on your socials, if you're able to prove that you have these metrics and numbers, that's your leverage with these promoters. That's your leverage with all kinds of people in the game. But if you don't have that and you're starting from scratch, you're going to be grinding. And I knew this going into this, right? I signed up for this. So I'm never afraid of the grind or the hard work, and so we've just been really trying to put our heads together to develop creative ways, for me to be able to sing live before audiences. So yeah, that's kind of the phase that we're at now. I'm still recording my album and all that, in the phase of picking out the next singles and all that good stuff, right? And so as an artist, there's just so much that you're working on at once, right? Also just the knowing that How did I lose my whole train of thought? But yeah, so it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a slow end game. Slow and steady wins the race. This is not an overnight thing. Don't go into this thinking that you're going to be one of the ones to go viral. Like, that's not a reality for many. It's really the grind. It's the grind and building relationships with people and being able to prove yourself, being able to build your leverage. You know what I'm saying? Content is king. That's what I was going to say. Content is golden. Content is king. Around your music as an artist, your social medias are everything. For those who follow me on my personal pages, they may low-key be like, yo, why is she always posting videos of her singing or videos of this or her song or dancing? You have to. We're in the era where content is everything. You can't just put your music out and sit back and think that opportunities are going to come to you. You have to always have content. And so, yeah, and me even going through my social media with a fine-tooth comb about a month and a half ago, I'm like, girl, you're an artist, but you're barely singing on your own social media. And so I started combing through my phone and I found videos that I did throughout the year and last year, posted those. Then Jan Hunter Jr., shout outs to you. He's one of my favorite producers at this point. I started doing duets, to his instrumentation that he posts on his TikTok. And that last one that I did, he actually liked it and commented like, all right, okay, smooth. You know what I'm saying? He's super dope. And so I just wanted to be able to also have on my social media these videos and moments of me singing, so you get the understanding of what my aesthetic is. Going back to the making of Do You Hear Me? I fought for Do You Hear Me to be a single. My team had another song that I recorded in mind to be the first single, and I was like, no, Do You Hear Me is the one. Not only because of the message, but because sonically and aesthetically it speaks to who I am as an artist, right? And I wanted to make sure that whatever was going to be the first single to introduce me as a new artist was going to be something that was so ShayChannel, so Chanel Casimir, so me. And Do You Hear Me is that. As unorthodox as it is, as weird as it is as far as just how it's been arranged, it's me. It speaks to my aesthetic. And I'm like, I always said to my team, if I'm going to do this for real, if I'm going to do this on a professional level, it has to be honestly and purely who I am as an artist. That I don't waver on that. Whether people like it or they don't, I'd rather fail at this being me than fail at this trying to be something that I'm not. And this is something I also want to encourage lots of artists out there, new artists, even, seasons ones probably already know this, aspiring artists, that make sure that whatever you're putting out there is truly you. If you're not careful, you can find yourself recreating what already exists. Now, I get it. I tell y'all all the time, Doobie Powell is my favorite artist. Y'all check him out. Go on his socials, follow him, because I feel like he still is underrated and he is amazing. He is singer, songwriter, composer, musician, all that, right? And in me loving his art, it can't be to the point where it starts to bleed through my music, where my music sounds like his music, right? I love me some Brandy. Been rocking out with Brandy since I was in elementary school with I Wanna Be Down, right? Been rocking with her forever. However, Brandy already exists. Doobie Powell already exists. Y'all know I have some love for B. Beyonce already exists. Music Soul Child already exists. Erykah Badu, who's one of my faves, already exists. Jill Scott already exists. These people have already done legendary things and have killed the game. So I'm not trying to come out as a new artist being a replica of something that's great and amazing, but that already exists. And I've always said this, it's important to me to be an artist, not just to be a singer or a vocalist. The whole picture of what being an artist is. I look at all the moving parts. I thrive and strive for my songs to be balanced, where the instrumentation, the beat, the track shines on its own. The vocals shine on their own. The lyrics shines on its own. The message shines on its own. You know what I'm saying? The arrangement shines on its own. And all these beautiful moving parts dance well together. I'm not the artist that's going to oversing, that's going to do the most, that only focuses on the vocals. And it's funny, one of the highest compliments my engineer gave me, and he probably didn't even realize I was listening. Shout outs to you, Carlos. So I was in the booth and I was about to, record, do another take of whatever song. It might have been, no, it wasn't Do You Hear Me? It was this other song. I had finished a song from my record, my album, and then I was recording an R&B song because y'all also know I'm a songwriter, right? And so I'm working on my album, but I also simultaneously at times work on songs that I'm trying to shop to other artists that goes into the database, right? So we had finished with whatever we were working on for my project, and we transitioned and switched gears into a song that I've been trying to shop to other artists. And he probably didn't realize that the mic was on, so he said to one of my managers, shout outs to you, Bev, he was like, and shout outs to Larry. Larry wasn't in the studio with me, he's my other manager, but Bev was. And he was like, yo, she's an artist. Like, yo, she wrote both these songs? And my manager was like, yeah. He's like, yo, she's an artist. And that is like the highest compliment you can give me. That even trumps celebrities that I look up to hearing my song saying that they loved it. That trumps that because I take pride in being an artist. It's not just about one aspect of the art for me. It's about all moving parts dancing well together. And I've always said there's a difference between singers and artists, vocalists and artists. There are many people who can sing their face to the ground, who can sing me under the table, right? But a lot of people are not artists naturally. I believe that I'm an artist naturally. And that's not to flex or for me to like puff up my chest and make myself feel good or look good. It's just part of my process. I'm thinking about all the moving parts of a song. It's not just about the vocals, right? And then the beauty of it is when you sing live, that's my opportunity to go a little more ham vocally or to really show, all right, y'all, I could sing. Like, let's not get anything twisted. I can sing, But I feel like when you're recording your songs and you're putting them on your project, you're working on your body of music, it's important in my mind to have everything work well. Going back to the making of Do You Hear Me? I love the track so much, and the track is so simple. The beat is so simple, but it's something about it that I don't even know what sound the producer used. Once again, shout outs to Double Barrel, the producer of Do You Hear Me? But it's like the like that part that you hear throughout the track. Something about it was just so captivating to me and just so dope, so clean. And I knew that I didn't want to get on the song and pack it with extra vocals and extra backgrounds and extra ad-libs. That's probably why I naturally put a lot of the ad-libs in the section that's traditionally known as the bridge. Because even as I'm singing, do you hear me? I didn't even hear myself ad-libbing over that. I was just like, no, that's just not what I heard. And I'm big on listening to what the track is telling me, what the instrumentation is telling me, right? You'll be able to find your melody a lot of times that complements the track so well, in my opinion, when you listen to the track. Sometimes you have to live with the music for a while. Sometimes you don't, but I'm big on still listening to the track. That helps me to get the vibe, especially when I'm writing to submit for other artists. It helps me with the vibe. Like, ooh, this sounds like a woman scorned. Or, ooh, this sounds like someone who just got to that stage where they fell madly in love. It's the honeymoon phase. It reminds me of that. Or, ooh, this is an angry song. You're going to have to dig in your angry bag, girl. So I listen to what the vibe of the music is telling me. It also helps to direct the melody. Right now, lately, I've been playing with cadence. I think that's pretty fun and cool. But yes, less is more in my opinion. You will have your opportunities to go ham vocally in your live performances. This doesn't mean that you don't hit them with that golden run or two if that's what you do. This don't mean that you don't hit them with that butt and gut belt if that's what you do. This don't mean that you don't hit them with the colorful tones of your voice if that's what you do. Give them all of that, but give it to them in a way where you're not doing the most, or where it's not being overdone or overpowering the instrumentation or doing the most, right? I like balanced songs, but that's just me. I've always been that person. I remember being in college with some of my fellow college friends who loved music, and we were in the student center, might have been listening to Doobie or listening to somebody else, something very jazzy. That's a big part of my aesthetic, neo soul jazz vibes. And I remember the chords were sicker than sick in whatever song we were listening to. I don't remember the actual song, but I remember the chords being amazing. And I remember saying to my friends, nah, just ride the wave. You know, someone was going ham with the runs, someone's going ham with something else. I'm like, nah, y'all, that chord is beautiful. Just ride the wave. So I say that to say I've always had that ear from young to understand, nah, this keyboard player right here or this chord right here, this is the star of the show in this moment. So pull back with the singing and let that chord shine through, complement the chord, and then go to singing your face off. But knowing when to go and when to pull back, when to go and when to pull back. And so, that was kind of my thought process with Do You Hear Me? I pretty much freestyled the song and tweaked it, and just literally went with what I naturally heard the first time around. That's just my process. And by no means is my process the process. Every artist has their own process. Just know what it is. Know what works for you. What works for me is naturally going with what I heard the first time. For me, that's always the best version of what I got. For someone else, they may need to create 3 different versions, 3 different songs for that track and pick the best one. That doesn't work for me. For me, it's best that whatever I come up with initially, that's the best of what I got. And I just build from there. So know your process and find your process. But also know when to go, and when to pull back. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's important to understand the different moving parts, right? It's not always just about the vocals. Knowing what's going to make this song a potential hit, or what's going to make people fall in love with this song. I've learned over the last 2 years, as I've been getting stronger in my songwriting, that I have a knack for catchy hooks. I have a knack for a lot of the feedback I've been getting from people is I keep playing the song over and over. I keep listening to the song. And so, I want that. I want it to be where when you hear it for the first time, you automatically play that thing again. I want it to be where, whether you're a singer or you're not, whether you're musically inclined or you're not, you feel like you can sing along with my music, with my songs, that the hook is in your head all day. Like, I want that. You know what I'm saying? And once again, I'm not sitting down saying, create a catchy hook, make sure people can vibe with it. I'm just going off of what naturally flows. But once I've been able to live with the record, live with the song, then I start asking myself, is it catchy? Is this something people can sing along to? Is this something even someone who can't sing and is not musically inclined could potentially love? Then I start asking myself those questions. Is my toddler dancing to it and singing along with it? You know what I'm saying? And so that pretty much was the making of Do You Hear Me? It was a very simple, organic, and easy, smooth process. 2 sessions to do the song. And I had a lot of time to live with it. And of course, as an artist, you always feel like you can go back in and sing something a little bit better. But even my managers were like, it's fine, girl, don't start overdoing things. Just let it be. And that, y'all know I did it. Well, you may not know, but I had an EP that I put out on SoundCloud back in 2017 called The Complex Simplicity of Me. And I loved a lot of what I came up with, but I didn't love how I executed a lot of the vocals. So with Do You Hear Me, for the most part, I was like, I'm cool with how I executed these vocals, right? And it just makes me strive to get tighter and tighter and better and better. But I sing all the time now. So when you're always singing and using the muscles, you naturally just get tighter and tighter and better and better. But yeah, so that pretty much was the process. I'm proud of it. It's still one of my favorite songs that I've recorded thus far. I think that the message is really sound. I don't think that it's cheesy. I think it's a relatable message. That's another thing. I want my music to be relatable. And I also, I just love the vibe. And I feel like that was the right single to debut as a new artist. So you get a sense of my vibe. I love that it's different. I love that it's not something you hear in the inspirational space. I don't even know that you're really hearing it much in the R&B space. Of course, you hear trap type of vibes music, but as far as how I sing it, I don't really think that that's happening. Even just how I went a cappella for a good 40 seconds and then the beat dropped back. Like, you don't really get that in music today. So I feel like in its own way, it's innovative. I do feel like Do You Hear Me is a bit innovative, and I do feel like it may be slightly ahead of its time in its own way with how I sequenced it. But that's just me. I'm biased, right? 9 out of 10 times I'm going to love what I do. Ooh, another thing I want to say, and then I'm going to go, is I've learned there's certain things that I do vocally that annoys me. And I'm pretty sure any singer can say this. Any artist would say this. What I've learned to do is lean into it. Because a lot of times the very parts of my voice that I may not like, or that I may feel annoyed by, or different inflections or ad-libs that may annoy me, I'm like, dag, I can't think of anything else to replace that with, right? And you know me, my process is you go with what you heard the first time, because that's probably the best of what you got. But I've learned that lean into that, Chanel, because that may be the very thing that draws people to you. That may be the very thing that solidifies your sound. That may be the very thing that makes you identifiable in the pack of gazillions of artists and singers out there. So don't be afraid to lean into the areas of your voice that you don't like. Now, if there's certain areas that need to be tightened up by way of vocal training, understandable. But I'm saying just certain nuances that we have in our voices that we can't control, that's just a part of our vocal makeup that we may not like, lean into it. A lot of times we may find that we don't like certain aspects of our voice because in our minds we want to sound like this person, or we want to garner the respect vocally of what this artist has, right? But that ain't what God gave you, right? And so it's leaning into all the things that make you you. So that annoying inflection that I tend to do, or that annoying this or tone that I don't like at times, but that's what makes me me, right? It's not don't look at it as a vocal flaw. Look at it actually as a strength, because it'll set you apart in some way. I don't know if we realize, once again, if you're not careful, the very artists that you love, and some may even idolize, they already exist. So you got to find out who you are vocally. Who are you as an artist? Who are you as a songwriter? You know what I'm saying? Don't try to recreate and replicate what is already here. God gave you something totally different. So make sure that you are bringing to the table what you were given, you know? Yeah. And some of the greats have felt this way too. I never forget Brandy always saying that she wished that she had the richness that Monica had in her voice. And you know, back in the 90s, they were always trying to pit them against each other. But look at Brandy. She's the artist that's been coined and deemed the vocal Bible, right? Back in the 90s, everybody was like, Brandy can't sing, Monica's the one. And Monica is amazing, right? And I don't think anyone has wavered away from that. Super talented, great at what she does. I think a lot of the world was a little late on Brandy. They weren't rocking with Brandy the way they are now, back when she was doing her first album. And that first album was insane in a good way. You know what I'm saying? People just caught the wave, you know, with Never Say Never and with Full Moon. But Brandy was that girl from her first album, you know? So sometimes it'll take people a while to catch up. but I'm pretty sure now she's probably like, whatever insecurities I had about my voice, those are the very things that people love about me that got me considered as being a vocal Bible. Nobody was singing quite like Brandy. And her idol was Whitney Houston, but she still found a unique way to be who she was vocally. So, lean into the things that annoy you about your own voice, or the things you don't like about your own voice. Those are probably actually your strengths and the things that make your voice beautiful in the eyes of many other people, and what will set you apart from the trillions of singers out here. Because everybody and their mama and their mama's baby's mamas can sing. There are too many people in the world that can sing. So make sure you're tapping into what makes you you. And don't let comparison steal your joy. I know it's a human thing. We don't got to compare ourselves to everybody. When some of my friends even heard my song, some of the first things they said is, it reminded me of Kelly Rowland and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, I don't really like to be compared to other people like that. I get what you're doing. I get what you're saying. But that's not really, I wasn't setting out to sound like Kelly Rowland. Love her. Amazing tone. She got one of the best tones in the game. But I'm setting out to be ShayChannel, to be Chanel. You know what I'm saying? So, don't let comparisons, steal your joy. Don't compare yourself to other artists. Just do you. Do you. And sometimes you have to big yourself up from a humble place, of course. Like a lot of times now, I'll tag myself as the hook slayer because I recognize I know how to write a hook. I'm gonna write you a catchy hook. Hooks that could be songs that could be heard on the radio, like big time hooks. I have that ability, and I'm not gonna shy away from it. And I'm not gonna wait for somebody else to say it to validate it. This is a strength of mine that I recognize that I have. So yes, I'm gonna say ShayChannel, the hook slayer, when I am posting a video of me singing a hook that I wrote. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just wanted to give you this part 2 that we were cut off last night. And so hopefully there's something that resonates with you, that lands, that is helpful to you, inspiring. Thank you so much. Don't forget, Do You Hear Me is available right now on all digital streaming, about to trip over my words, on all digital streaming platforms. So let's run them streams up. And for those of y'all that have already downloaded and streamed the song, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Until next time.